And that is Ron Dante. And Ron, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. Born in Staten Island, you're a local guy.
I am a local guy, born and raised New York City, Staten Island. Moved into Manhattan when I was about 20 to play all the clubs in there, and the East Coast meant a lot to me.
Tell me, as a kid, I mean, what were you listening to? What were your folks listening to?
Well, I was listening to Elvis, definitely. Elvis, Fats Domino, Little Richard, the Everly Brothers, and my dad was listening to things like K-Star, Peggy Lee, all kinds of middle-of-the-road kind of stuff. Beautiful stuff, though. He was a big music fan, so I would listen to his collection as a little kid, and then, of course, when Elvis hit, I became a fanatic Elvis fan, and picked up a guitar, and I just, had to be in music.
So you were still, a teenager when you moved into the city and said, this is what I'm going to do.
That's right. I was very young. I was like 19 or 20, and got into the city and put some groups together, played the clubs, and tried to break into the music business.
What was was your first success songwriting, or was it the Detergents?
Actually, the first thing I did was sign with a man named Don Kirshner, who was a huge music publisher in the 60s. Before in the 70s, he became 60s he became the guy behind the Monkees. He actually signed me up as a singer-songwriter, and that was my first break. But the first hit I ever was on was my group called the Detergents.
Right, Leader of the Laundromat was a big hit. That group ended up going on the Dick Clark Caravan of Stars. That it always seems like to me, if I could, take a time machine to see some live music, that would be one of the things on my list. What were those events like?
They were unbelievable. They put us all on a big bus, like 5 or 6 groups and artists would be on this huge bus, and we took off from New York City and just headed west and hit all the cities, and we headed south. It was amazing to be on the bus with Freddie and the Dreamers, Peter Noon and Herman's Hermits, Little Anthony and the Imperials, Freddie Cannon was on the bus. It was amazing. We'd play cards on the bus because we had these long hops between cities. We'd do a show and then take off after the show and drive maybe 200, 300 miles. So we'd get to the place at 2 or 3 in the morning. But to occupy our time on those long trips, we'd play cards, we'd talk, we'd write songs together. It was a real camaraderie. I thought the groups, everybody intermingled and became friends, longtime friends. I'm still friends with some of the people I was on that bus with.
It sounds like fun. So was everybody just doing 3 or 4 songs and then off?
That was about it. It was a big show. Dick Clark actually introduced the show.
Oh, wow.
And he actually drove on the bus with us sometimes.
That's amazing. That would just never happen today. You'd never get that to happen. You'd have 17 jumbo jets,
Oh, please, everybody, and they'd have their own colored M&Ms in the room backstage. Everybody is so people weren't very particular then. We were just happy to be out there on the road, making music and meeting the fans, and what a great experience.
Yeah, I assume you were just a kid then. Did guys like Little Anthony take your per diem playing cards, or what was that?
Actually, I hustled the Imperials. They said, "You're young, you can join our card game," and of course, I had grown up playing cards, so I ended up winning a lot of their money, and I was the youngest on the bus.
Amazing. It must have been quite an education, musically and just a life education.
Oh, it was just great to be a musician, growing up and playing guitar and dreaming of being on these shows and then getting the opportunity. It was a gift.
Now, let's talk about the Detergents. They were sort of a group that did parodies. There's some great clips of them on the web. You can see them performing. I think it's on Hullabaloo, those kind of programs. Was it a group that was put together, or were you guys self-contained? Did you find a record company?
Actually, one of the guys in the group's uncle was a terrific hit songwriter named Paul Vance, and he wrote Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini and a few other big hits in the years. He wrote Tracy for me years later, but he decided to do the parody with his partner, and he called his nephew Danny, who was a songwriting pal of mine at the time, Danny Jordan, and he said, get some guys together and come into the studio. I need some voices. Get Ronnie, get Dante. He can sing some parts. So it ended up just a studio thing, and then about 3 weeks later, it was on the radio, and it took off. It hit top 10, and it was a very big hit. We toured for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's, I think, 1964, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and great year to be sort of a part of music, just Beatlemania going crazy. What did you think when you first heard the Beatles?
Somebody played me an early record of theirs, "She Loves You," and it was a music publisher in New York, and he said, "I don't know, I've just got the publishing on this song. What do you think of the song?" I said, "Well, it's a good song. It's a really different sounding group." He said, "They're huge in England," and I wasn't very impressed at the time. And all of a sudden, they became the world phenomenon that became the Beatles.
Yeah, and often with something new, it's just hard. It's so different. It leaps off the turntable. It's kind of hard. It's like a different language. You know?
I was listening to all kinds of other types of music. American music was dominating at the time, so it was the first time, I had heard a British group that really jumped out at me. But I had no idea they would become as big as they did. Yeah,
after the Detergents sort of finished their run, you put out some more solo records, and you sort of became part of that second wave of New York City songwriters. What was that like, and were you told, okay, I need 4 songs today, or this artist is looking for a song? What was the process like?
The process was you come in on a Monday morning, and the head fella at the publishing company would tell the young writers and the teams of writers, Connie Francis is coming in, or Bobby Rydell, or Neil Sedaka needed a song, although Neil wrote in our office together. But we would get they'd say the Beach Boys needed a song. Could you write something for them? So we'd sit down, the teams of writers, the young guys would and girls would put their minds together in their little cubicles and come up with a song. Then they'd let us demo it that week, like kind of a 3-piece instrumental demo, with somebody singing lead. I usually do lead. And then by Friday, the act would come in, and we'd actually hear that they were playing our song through the walls. We'd cross our fingers. Once I did a live demo for Connie Francis. Didn't even have to put the stuff down on tape or acetate. She came in, I sat at the piano, and I played her my song. It was an amazing time. Same thing I did with Johnny Mathis once. It was very exciting to get to meet the artists.
Johnny Mathis ended up cutting some of your songs, didn't he?
He did cut one of my songs called Long Winter Nights, which was a B-side of one of his records.
That's amazing. Gary Lewis, Bobby Vee, Jay and the Americans, lots of folks ended up cutting Ron Dante songs during that time. It must have been exciting. Were your folks, did they think, okay, the kid made a good move?
They always loved the fact that I was in music. My dad owned a shop that made coats, and he said, you can really sing and play guitar and write. He said, you should stay in that business. So they were very proud of me.
That's nice. In 1968 comes Music is Changing. You hear about an audition for the Archies. What was it in the air? Did you know what it was? What happened?
A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, was playing keyboards on it. And he said, your old friend Don Kirshner and Jeff Barry, the producer, are looking for the lead voice for this new cartoon series called The Archies. He said, you should give him a call. So I immediately called Don Kirshner, and he said, well, come on in and audition. And I remember I went to RCA Victor Studios in New York City, and there was Don Kirshner and Jeff Barry, one of the top songwriters and producers of all time.
Sure.
They knew me. I had worked with both of them, so we're old friends. And they said, well, here's the track. Go sing put some kind of a voice on there. And so I went out there, and I sang in different ways. I sang a little bit high, a little low, a little rock and roll,
Mm-hmm.
And finally they said, you've got the job.
Do you remember what that track was?
It was Bang Shang-a-Lang.
Right. Amazing. And did you have any idea how big it would be or how long it would last?
Well, I knew that they were very successful,
mm-hmm.
and I knew that the Archies was an icon of comic books for many, many years. And so I figured, those powerhouses, it had to be some kind of a successful thing, especially since it's going to be on Saturday morning, every Saturday morning on the network. And I knew the music would be great, and I knew I'd do my part. So I had high hopes for it.
Yeah,
I was very, very happy, but I knew it could do something.
From 68 to 72, the Archies released 5 studio albums, and Jeff Barry, like you said, worked with the Crystals, the Ronettes, the Monkees, the Shangri-Las, just, a great company to be with. The Archie songs, some of them are kind of simple. They're for kids, or they're something that they're trying to convey some sort of theme of the show. How quickly were the records cut? What was the atmosphere of cutting those records? Were you singing live, or were you always just coming in later and adding your voice?
The tracks were always done before I got there. But I would go in and they'd have maybe 5 or 6 tracks a day to do during the first season. And I remember in a 2-week period we did the entire season. I sang all these songs, maybe 30 or 40 songs, and it was like an assembly line. You'd go in, I'd learn the song, I'd put the vocal down. Within an hour, the vocals would be done. We'd put backgrounds on it, and singing backgrounds. Myself and Miss Tony Wine, who did the girl backgrounds. and we'd do hand claps and shakers, tambourines on the original tracks with Jeff Barry, and it was a real. It clicked, boy. We got a lot of things accomplished in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So these were all songs you didn't get a chance to hear before you had to go in and sing the lead vocal?
No, Jeff would play the track and sing the song to me. The producer would play the song, and fortunately I was a very quick study, and they were very easy to learn because they were really cool songs.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting time.
Yeah, it was really an interesting time. The Archies were huge. I mean, I still have some Welch's grape jelly glasses. They're in my cabinet, and I use them every day, and they have the Archies on them. And what I don't have anymore is the Archies breakfast cereal records. An amazing thing, Archie's records pressed onto the back of a cereal box that you could cut out with the scissors and play on a turntable, and I want to kill myself for letting my mother throw those out.
They're very popular still. They're all on eBay.
Yeah.
You can pick them up every once in a while. I actually got the entire box flattened without the contents, but there was a box.
Oh, you bought it on eBay yourself? Oh,
Yes,
that's amazing.
eBay has let me collect all the memorabilia from the Archies, which is, thank goodness. And I had a few things from those years my mom kept.
That's nice. I always talk about folks that have a number one record, and we've had a lot of people on who've had a number one for a week or a couple of weeks. We had Roy Head on a few weeks ago, and he had a number two record for 8 weeks, and he just wanted to go out and strangle the Beatles because he never sort of got that number one status. There's something about that to say, I had my record was number one on the Billboard chart for a while. However, Sugar Sugar was number one so long, it was the number one record of the year.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. I mean, at a time when, studio-crafted pop music was, the competition was so strong, this song was number one for, of the number one song of the year. It's a mind-blowing statistic.
Well, I think it was the right song at the right time. The writers, Jeff Barry and my friend Andy Kim, just hit on something that really connected with the public here and internationally. We beat out the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Fifth Dimension for number one record of the year. So I'm very honored to have a number one record in my history.
Yeah, number one for the year, Ron. It's you can retire. It's amazing. After the sort of Archie's run was over, or really concurrently as the same year as Sugar Sugar, the Cufflinks Tracy, also a giant hit for you. Both songs, one is Archie, what's his name? Archie Andrews is the lead singer, and the other one is the Cufflinks. Was it frustrating being not the face behind the voice?
Well, I originally did those records as an anonymous person. So I had to go with that. Don Kirshner told me the Archies would be a cartoon. The Cufflinks would just... I was doing many ghost groups in those years. That one year I must have done 12 ghost groups. Different groups had different types of records out at the same time. But the Cufflinks hit, and Tracy became a very famous song, thank goodness. It was interesting to be anonymous, but it was kind of cool, because I could continue to do my commercial work. I was a commercial jingle singer, singing commercials for everybody, so I could just, that enhanced my reputation, in fact. And I didn't have to travel all over the country, which I had done as a teenager, so it allowed me to have a pretty stable lifestyle.
You said you did quite a few anonymous groups back then. What other groups were you the voice behind?
Well, I can't remember all of them, but one was called the Web Spinners. We did an album called From Beyond the Grave. It was a Spider-Man album, and I was the lead voice of Spider-Man, singing voice in this album.
The rock comic.
Yeah, rock comic.
Yeah, I have that as well.
And unbelievable.
I grew up listening to that. Yeah, that's, I think, around 1972. So something like the Cufflinks, was it just this is one of the 12 anonymous groups I'm going to do? I have no idea if this is going to be a hit or just another, thing out there?
Well, I had to pay the rent, so I had to continue to sing. I just love to sing. People would call me and say, "Would you like to come in and sing this demo or sing this master?" And I would come in and do it. It was my craft. I wanted to use my instrument as much as possible, and sing as many songs as possible. And those things just happened.
You talk about jingles. You sang, I think, McDonald's "You Deserve a Break Today," a famous 1970s jingle. Songs like the Archies and being the voice behind jingles, there's something about the personality that is projected that says this is somebody everybody wants to listen to. What do you think it is about your voice that makes it so suitable for things that everybody hears?
Well, I just, it's my sound, and there's nothing I can do about my sound. I sang since I've been 6 years old. My family, all my father and his brothers like to sing, so I was surrounded by music. So I developed this sound, and I got a chance early in my career to hone it and develop it. Whereas a lot of the kids from today, they at 17, 18, they think they should be stars immediately. Nobody works on their voice, nobody works on their presence and stuff. But we had a chance to, in those days, singers would be able to do clubs and things, develop a sound. My sound was affiliated with some wonderful songs. I think the songs help to define the person, the quality of the voice sometimes. So I was lucky that people got used to hearing my voice on commercials, especially. They would hear me, and I would come into everybody's home, everybody's car, everybody, TV, through radio. So I became a very familiar voice. I was like one of the family, I think, in my terms of my voice.
That's interesting, one of the family. Around this time, you're running around doing jingles and demos and, making solo records. You meet Barry Manilow in the studios of New York City. Is that right?
Yes, I was actually singing a commercial, and the writer of the commercial was Barry Manilow, and he was just starting out in his career.
And he composed the jingle.
Yes, he composed the jingle, and he did the arrangement for the band, and he sang in the background group with us.
Interesting. And you ended up producing his, I guess it was his first single, which was Mandy, was a giant hit. I Write the Songs, Copacabana, Could It Be Magic, lots and lots of big hits. What was that whole collaboration like? I mean, it's hard to imagine. Barry Manilow was a giant star.
Well, when I met him, he was playing piano behind Bette Midler. He was her orchestrator and piano player. And I told him, I said, you have to leave her because you have a great talent too. You can be a solo star on your own. He wasn't that sure of it until I took him in the studio and we did our first demos. And Could It Be Magic was one of the first demos we ever did. And the first time he ever played that for me, I knew that this was a huge star, and he had a great future. He just had to be recorded properly and directed to the right labels and stuff. And that's what happened. Our collaboration ended up selling 70, 80 million records. Yeah. And I still worked with him on his last album a few months ago, The Songs of the 70s. I did all the backgrounds on about 10 or 12 of his of the sides, and we recut some of our original hits unplugged. So it's going to be an interesting CD. Can
you explain how do producers make money? Do they get a couple pennies a record, or they just get a fee?
Usually a producer gets a royalty on the records he produces, on the songs he produces. With his collaborations such as Manilow and myself, we were partners because I funded everything in the beginning, and we believed in each other.
You actually funded stuff. Wow, that is really believing in someone. Well, good for you. You also ended up producing Cher, lots of great records. You also made some records that Barry produced and one that Paul Schaefer produced, right?
Yes, actually, Paul Schaefer was a good friend of mine. I met him through Don Kirshner again, and he was just starting out in the music business trying to get some studio work, and I heard him play, and I just liked his piano playing so much. I hired him to be the background, do some background playing for Barry Manilow, Cher, a bunch of artists I produced at the time, Pat Benatar. And when it came around to doing a solo album, I liked Paul so much I got him to co-produce it with me. So I did a solo album in the early 80s with him.
And talk about, somehow you ended up producing Broadway shows, Children of a Lesser God, Ain't Misbehavin', stuff like that. I mean, how do you make that leap?
Well, the music business is centered in the Broadway area in New York City. So you, as an aspiring songwriter, singer, you walk around those areas, you see the stage doors, you go see some of the shows, on a free ticket night or something. And so I always loved the Broadway musical and Broadway shows. So when I did very well with my producing of records, I had some friends who were producers, and they invited me to come in on some shows and become a co-producer on some shows. And one of the first shows I did was Ain't Misbehavin', which went on to be run for 4 years on Broadway, and introduced Nell Carter, who was our original star. So I was very fortunate to get involved in Broadway. I always loved the area. I hope to get involved with it again soon. Yeah,
you're also the publisher of the Paris Review, George Plimpton's publication, and it's something I read on the web, and I said, that can't be right. And I actually sent an email to the Paris Review saying, was it a different Ron Dante? But no, they confirmed, no, you were indeed the publisher of the Paris Review. How did that happen?
Well, in the neighborhood I lived in Manhattan, my next door neighbor was the editor-in-chief, George Plimpton, very famous writer and
Right.
raconteur. And we became friends. We met and we became friends. We used to play pool every Sunday afternoon and on his pool table. And once he told me he was looking for a new publisher of the magazine needed help, so I volunteered. And I'm very interested in what he did, and what he always got the greatest interviews of the latest writers, and he even had one of the biggest interviews ever with Hemingway. So it was a very prestigious magazine, and I kind of liked it. And I told George I'd love to do it. So I ended up becoming the publisher.
Amazing. You're playing September 21st and 22nd in Las Vegas at the Hooters Hotel, the new Hooters Hotel. What is your show like these days?
Well, I do my Archie's hits and my Cufflinks hits. I also do a few of my the Manilow songs that I produced, like Can't Smile Without You and maybe Looks Like We Made It. And then I fill it in with things that I've always wanted to sing, like some monkey songs, Grassroots, and a couple, things like that. I do some of my commercials in the in a medley in the middle of the show. So that's basically what my show encompasses.
You still have a lot of fun doing that?
I'm thrilled to do it, because I stayed in the studio producing other people for many, many years. And about 10 years ago, I decided to go back on the road and do it live again.
Just for fun?
Just for fun. And it's so thrilling to meet the fans, and the people come with the original records they want me to sign and pictures. And most people have never heard Sugar Sugar live, so they're thrilled to see the original voice of the Archies.
Sure, the Archies didn't tour a whole lot.
Well, it was a deal. The cartoon would go out, and they would play the cartoon on local TV shows.
Tell me, you moved to Los Angeles fairly recently. Why'd you do that?
There's a lot more action out here in terms of what a producer can do and an artist. More opportunities than New York. New York is very good for commercials and other things, but really the center of the entertainment business is out here in Los Angeles. So I moved out to be connected with the big companies like Disney and DreamWorks and Paramount. In fact, Paramount has a new picture coming out called B-Movie. Jerry Seinfeld's new movie is called B-Movie, an animated film, and Sugar Sugar is in it. Yeah. So being out here helped. Gotcha.
I would say you've probably sold, counting every record, over 100 million records. That's a lot of records.
I think you're right, and I'm still working on the second 100 million.
What do you think about American Idol and that style of singing?
I think it's okay. I know a lot of people love the show, so.
I hate it.
Yeah, I have the good. Here's a good part. It shows off these great song catalogs that people have to sing, the great 60s catalogs, 70s catalogs. Great songs have to be sung by these singers most of the time because today's crop is not as full of good songs to sing. So they sing the classic Motown catalog and stuff, and I like that. The downside is that people they think they should become famous overnight without hard work and years of preparing their careers.
And without subtlety,
Yeah, it's like instant pop, and it doesn't really make sense. Once in a while they come up with they throw off the best people sometimes. so I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm really happy that the songs get spotlighted.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation that these, the quote unquote best contemporary singers have to sing slightly older songs because nothing else has melodies,
It's very few and far between. The only good songs I think are being written. Most of the good songs are coming out of country music. Yeah, that's still a fertile area.
Yeah, people work hard to write great country songs. They really work at that. What do you listen to when you're driving to the grocery store?
I listen to Frank Sinatra and Elvis.
Perfect. That is such an American mix to listen to.
Yeah.
We're going to get out of here, and we're going to hear Sugar Sugar. Anything else we need to know about the song? Anything you can remember? Did you have any inkling this was going to be, this was going to just jump out of the pack of the other 7 or 8 Archie songs you recorded that day?
The only thing I remember is that I worked hard on the vocal and longer than the other vocals. There seemed to be something in that track, in that song, that needed an extra special vocal sound, and I just had a joy. It was a joy singing it, and the first time I heard it on the radio, I said, "This is going to be a monster." And thank goodness it was.
Yeah, it's a fantastic song, and I want to say that it sounds particularly great turned up really loud. So I want to encourage everyone to turn your radio up extremely loud right now. Ron Dante, thank you for joining us today. Really a pleasure to get the story behind that, and there's more information at rondante.com. and some folks can come out and see you in Las Vegas and tell them you heard about it here. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ron, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, rock on.
Bye-bye.